Darkness, flickering torches, and the sound of shouted orders. Armed temple guards move quickly through the narrow stone streets of Jerusalem, dragging a man toward an urgent middle-of-the-night interrogation. For 3 years, this man taught a radical message of peace and mercy. Now, in the dead of night, he faces an illegal trial intended to mark him as a threat to the state. His fate rested with the highest authority in the province, the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. This stone inscription serves as the archaeological footprint of the civil power required to turn a religious dispute into a state execution. In screenwriting, character consistency dictates that a person's core traits must drive the plot. If a character is truly consistent, their choices lead them toward an inevitable end. The actions that led to this man's execution weren't random. The stories he told his followers provide the specific logic for his behavior, revealing why he chose to cross the boundaries that eventually cost him his life. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus introduced a twist that would have horrified his audience. He bypassed the religious leaders and cast a Samaritan, a member of a hated, rival ethnic group, as the only person capable of showing true mercy to a victim in the road. He then mirrored that fictional hero in his own life, sitting alone by a well in the desert heat. At high noon, he struck up a conversation with a Samaritan woman drawing water. This wasn't a casual chat. He was violating hundreds of years of entrenched ethnic hatred, strict gender taboos, and religious isolation. He was engaging with a woman his culture had labeled the other. Jesus bypassed the social shame surrounding her life and treated her with absolute dignity. By the time Lee finished, this societal outcast had become his first evangelist, bringing an entire city to meet the man at the well. He weaponized empathy, physically placing himself in the exact spaces where religious and social rules said he shouldn't be. He pushed the imagery further in the story of the Prodigal Son. He described a father who completely abandons his social status, hiking up his robes to run toward a son who had disgraced the family. Jesus replicated that embrace in his daily habits. He consistently ignored ritual purity laws to eat with tax collectors and outcasts, treating those the system called sinners like family members. This empathy wasn't a performance. It was a visceral reaction to human suffering. We see it when he reaches the tomb of his friend Lazarus, and despite his power, stops to openly weep with the family. His actions were characterized by this sense of abundance. At a wedding in Cana, he used these types of large stone jars to provide gallons of fine wine, going well beyond what was necessary. But his parables also contained a mirror for his enemies. The Prodigal Son story ends with a resentful older brother standing outside the party, furious that the rules were bypassed in favor of mercy. The real-life older brothers were the Pharisees and the legal experts of the Sanhedrin. They watched Jesus subvert their entire religious framework and viewed his consistent distribution of grace as a direct threat to their authority. By refusing to change his character, Jesus forced a collision. His commitment to treating outcasts with dignity became a systemic threat to the power and control maintained by the religious elite. This dark stone chamber represents the final moment of that collision. When a person's character is unbreakable, the system around them eventually breaks its own rules to stop them. To secure a conviction, the Sanhedrin and Pilate ignored their own procedural laws, relying on night sessions, contradictory testimony, and shifting the charges from religious blasphemy to political sedition, just to remove him from the board. Jesus went to the cross because he was consistent. He refused to stop practicing the radical dignity he preached, making his death the logical conclusion of the life he lived. The empires that condemned him eventually lost their jurisdiction and vanished into history. But these stories outlasted the systems that tried to silence them. Those stories survive because they still function as mirrors. We are left to choose our own place in the narrative, identifying with the outcast needing grace, the rigid older brother clinging to the rules, or the father willing to run toward the broken.